Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectMeWithTiffany. Welcome to the podcast and posse, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today I'm bringing on someone I hand-selected who didn't even know until a couple of minutes ago that she made a big shift in how I show up online. Alexis, she has built a thriving and fun online wellness business by being uniquely herself and generously helping thousands of women learn to love themselves through their body and their mind. She is also the founder of One Fit Coconut. I mean, how cute is that name? So you want to follow her on Instagram for sure. And you guys, she is a bulldog mom like me. So her bully's name is Ned. You guys know mine's Molly. I mean, there may be a match here. What's up, girl?
Hey, what's up? I'm so happy to be here.
So first off, let's just discuss this. So I want you guys to understand how important it is for you to show up, on social media. You might go, oh my God, no one's I'm not getting that many followers. No one's engaging with me. But when you hear this story, I think it's going to inspire you and go, okay, if I can help, one person a week make a shift like that, like I don't need to be so obsessed with the numbers. So you guys know I hand select all of my guests, and I came across, Alexis's profile, like One Fit Coconut. First off, cute name, but truly it was because of Ned, because I'm like a bulldog mom freak. Like I use the hashtag. I'm obsessed. I could look at them all day. They make me laugh. And then I started, the more you start following someone's stuff and watching their stories, the more their stories appear, fun, Instagram hack fact. So she she's also into EDM, which for those of you who are like, what the fuck is that? It's electronic dance music. I'm an old school raver. That's my fucking jam. So we have a lot of stuff in common. And I noticed you really show up I can tell, given I've been in digital marketing a long time, you show up without a fucking filter. She will get on and dance, full body shots. She has a great body, but shit, we all have stuff that jiggles. She doesn't care. Mm-hmm. And I was captivated by that. You're naturally pretty anyway, but it's I was so captivated. You just show up without a filter. Were you always this way?
I would say when I growing up and in grade school and high school, I was always that person that was captain of the volleyball team and wanted to be follow the leader, all of those all of those kinds of things. But when I was about 20, 21, I got into a relationship that ended up being emotionally abusive. And if you've ever been in a physically, emotionally abusive relationship, you know how manipulative they can be and how they can trick you with their words and the things that they say and do. And it just made me a shell of a person. And I went from being the outgoing, talkative, never shuts up, loud person that I am on social media today into a shell of a person. But with the work that I've done, through personal development, podcasts, meditations, affirmations, which I always like to say, I think affirmations are the cheat code to life. You're always looking for that thing that can really get you to where you want to go. And I think affirmations are really that. But working on all of that stuff has brought it back out in me. So I feel like it's always been something that has been innately me, but I figured out how to get it back again and then truly show up in just I don't really care what people think about me. I care a lot, but I don't care what people think about me at the end of the day.
Okay, like my longtime listeners are tripping right now because my mom is a narcissist. So I grew up in a narcissistic household with a lot of emotional and sexual abuse. Therefore, I attracted a lot of men who were emotionally abusive in the same way because I didn't see the red flag. So I had no self-worth. So I completely get it. My journey was very long in terms of learning to love myself. I had to learn to like myself first. Was your journey, what did that journey look like for you, that healing journey after coming out of that?
So for me, while I was going through that emotionally abusive relationship, to give you kind of a little bit of a background of me, I went to school to be a high school history teacher, realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. Once I did student teaching, I was like, I don't know if I really could be around all these children all the time. Not that I don't like other people's children, but I don't know if I ever want mine or want, some of my own. So I had like a quarter life crisis, and I moved from the West Coast or the East Coast to the West Coast with the guy I'd been dating. And he also was a pathological liar. So he said he had this house that we were going to move into. We get to LA, the house didn't exist. So we ended up sleeping in our car, and I was homeless, sleeping out of my car in LA and like sleeping in Target parking lots in our car for like 3 months. Like I would brush my teeth in like grocery store bathrooms and shower on the Santa Monica beach, like in my bathing suit, because we didn't have anywhere to live, and we had money, but that was like for food and gas. And that's really all we could do. During all of that time, I had also developed 2 eating disorders. So I was going through bulimia and binge eating disorder, and also putting on a bunch of weight, which I didn't know later on. About a year later, I would find out that I was diagnosed with PCOS, which for those of people that don't know is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It can cause infertility, weight gain, all of that stuff. So I was going through all of that emotionally abusive relationship, 2 eating disorders, and dealing with being homeless and away from everything that I ever knew. And I would have just graduated college, which my sister just graduated college 2 years ago. And I think like where I am now, I'm like, oh my God, how did my parents ever let me even go out there? Which they didn't want me to. But anyway, I was going through all of those things. And I really think the wake up call for me kind of started with health and fitness. When I was diagnosed with PCOS, I realized, okay, I have to get myself together. And I knew it wasn't just about nutrition. It wasn't just about fitness. It was really about the mindset. And I think because of that, all of that stuff that was going on, that like trifecta of all the craziness, it just almost gave me, I wouldn't necessarily say it was my rock bottom. I guess it could be. But I think that moment made that light bulb go off for me. And I was like, I have to start figuring out what I can do. And it was baby steps. People ask me all the time, like on social media now, how are you so confident? Or how can I do this? Or how can I do this like you? But I'm like, it's not just, you're going to hear me say one thing on this podcast that you're going to go run and do, and all of a sudden you're going to love yourself. It is little pieces, bit by bit, over time, the consistency and the being patient, knowing that it's going to come, that you have to be okay with. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. Like I said, podcasts and meditations and all of that stuff, but it was over time and consistently just doing little by little, but it wasn't one exact thing that changed everything for me.
Did you start this work while you were still in that abusive relationship, or did you say like, fuck off and leave?
So I definitely did not do it while I was in that relationship. It kind of was in the back of my head. And I jumped into Instagram about like 7 or 8 years ago, I think, like when it started getting big. And that's when you would see like the inspirational quotes and all of that stuff. And so I had gotten myself out of that relationship. And then immediately after was when I was looking for something. I was so desperate to not feel the way I felt anymore, especially because, like I said, it wasn't like I was always introverted. Like I was extroverted. I was the class clown. I was, prom queen. Like I was all those things. but then I turned into something else. And so I was just desperate to find myself again. So I think it was really when I like got out of that relationship, I was just looking for something, but it definitely was not during that time because I didn't feel like I had the right to. With him, I had to ask when I was allowed to do things. I had to ask when I was allowed to hang out with my friends. He knew the passwords to all of my things. Everything was like he gets to tell me what to do. He was never physically abusive, but emotionally is just as detrimental to your mindset. So yeah, I would say it was definitely after because I didn't feel like I had the permission yet. I had to find that permission, if that makes sense.
When did you create? I mean, obviously, for you to like go and look on stuff on Instagram, you had an account. Did you create One Fit Coconut right out of the bat, or were you just kind of like the lurker with like some random username?
Right, with just like the gray like person picture. So no, oh my gosh, because I have a decent amount of followers now, but I started with like 108, and the majority of them were like family, friends, people from like high school, and I was just sharing random things on there. But then once I was diagnosed with PCOS, which was February of 2013, that's when I started to use Instagram as almost like a diary, as like an accountability thing. Because people who follow me now on social media might think that I've always known about nutrition and fitness. Even when I look at my social media, I'm like, haven't I always been doing this? But like, I have not. I was like binge drinking Bud Light and like eating boxes of tuna helper by the barrel because that was my favorite thing. Like, I don't know if anybody else eats tuna helper, but it was my jam. But like, that's what I was eating. And I thought lean cuisines were healthy. So I got into the Instagram world, and I feel like Instagram was so heavy on like the health and food and posting pictures of your food when I joined. So I was really just using it for accountability. And then as I started to use it and I was starting to show up more real and raw as myself on social media, like you said, you know, what kind of effect I've had on you, I started seeing that. And even if it was only just one person, I was like, oh my gosh, like that lights me up to see somebody say, I worked out today because I saw your post. I'm like, what? And even then I was still going through eating disorders and still struggling mentally, but it like lit a spark in me. And it was, again, it was over time, those little tiny sparks kept giving me more confidence in myself. So it was really just like over time, I started sharing more of myself on social media. But one thing I do like to share that I share with my team now is that a lot of times people who come into something and they want to start a business or do something with social media because they know it's so important, is that they feel like they have to be confident or post pictures of themselves and do all this stuff right off the bat. For the first year and a half of really getting into the health and fitness industry, I wouldn't post pictures of my face. I wouldn't talk on camera. I wouldn't post any videos. And now I do that all the time. So you can work up to get that confidence, but you just have to do it, like I said, little by little every single day.
Now, when you started it, right, you said like in 2013, you were diagnosed. It was more like an accountability thing. Did you have it in your mind to monetize your Instagram at all, or it was simply just an accountability thing?
Oh, not at all in any way, shape, or form. It was 100% like just sharing it for me. Because when it was brought up to me, the opportunity of what I do now, like I was like, what? Like I'm just still trying to figure out all of my stuff. Like I'm still struggling with binge eating, like even into my, health and fitness journey. Because anybody who struggled with eating disorder, that stuff like really, it takes a while to get out of that because it's not just the stop eating. It's the what is the deeper thing in here that I have to work through. But yeah, no, not in any way, shape, or form did I ever. I would never think that I would be an entrepreneur. Like no way at all. Like not
and
even
why would you think that given you were healing your broken self-worth? An entrepreneur, even the name itself, that sounds like really grand and special. Like I was the same way. I was like, I'm not going to be an entrepreneur. Like that's like kind of major. Like
I feel like a lot of people are like that. Like besides maybe like Gary Vaynerchuk, who like was selling baseball cards when he was in school. Like I feel like most people, not that they necessarily stumble upon it in that sense, but I feel like they kind of either find themselves or find something that they're passionate about. And then it's kind of like, wait, I can do something with this. So it's not just like you have to wake up and be an entrepreneur. And I came from a super small town. Like I was born in Pennsylvania, but I grew up like in Delaware, and Delaware is like, if you're from there, I would be surprised if anybody even is from Delaware, but it's such a small place. It's like, we always say like, Delaware born, Delaware fed, Delaware dead. Like most people,
oh my God.
people are born there, they stay there, and they die there. Not there's anything wrong with it. I don't want to bash it. If you like staying in your hometown, that's awesome. I never could. But like it's not like a thing for people to like be an entrepreneur from there. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure there are, but Joe Flacco came from came from Delaware, but that's about it.
I mean, I actually have been there because my grandmother, my dad's mom was there in some like really fancy, there's like a lot of heavy old money there. And she was in some fancy assisted living, but there's like covered bridges and shit. I mean, it's like, it's gorgeous. I know what it's not like where I live in LA where it's like, I can like throw like a dime and hit 5 entrepreneurs any direction I go, right?
Not in Delaware. Yeah. It's just a really small town. Everybody knows everybody. It's not like, out in the cornfields of Kansas or anything like that, but it's very small. It takes an hour and a half to get from the top to the bottom.
So how did you feed yourself and make money when you left the asshole? And then, you started your, whole PCOS and healing journey. Like, how did you pay for your life?
Oh my gosh. So as anybody, because I was living in LA at the time, and as anybody who goes to LA tries to become an actress or do anything like that. So it was a lot of like background work, like, doing like YouTube set, like videos and things like that, like where you would just, I don't even know the websites where they give you like casting things.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and I was making like random money doing those kinds of things. And I had always been a waitress, like when I, was working during high school and college. So I obviously picked up basically trying to be an actress and then being like a bartender. So that was really what I was doing. And that was basically it for a bit. And then I think at some point, like I worked at Witch Witch. I don't know if you know what Witch Witch is, because I know it's in LA.
Oh, is it a sandwich place?
Yeah, it's like Subway.
Totally know what it is. Yes.
Yeah. It was I really liked the sandwiches there. It wasn't really fun working there, like cleaning bathrooms and stuff. But that's really what I was doing. I think at one point I had like a nannying job, but there were times where I didn't have enough money to put gas in my car to leave to go to my nannying job. Like it was really rough, but I somehow, it's like one of those things where it's like, I don't really know how. And I would occasionally get a little bit of help from my dad, but because he did not want me to move out there with the guy that I was with, he was kind of hesitant because he was like, you kind of did this to yourself. You know what I mean? So he would help me. Like, it wasn't like he would let me like live on the streets. I mean, I was sleeping out of my car at one point, but he didn't know that. When I was sleeping in my car, I would go to Airbnb or like Craigslist pictures, and I would take pictures from the website and send it to them and tell them that I was living there. Like, oh, this is my new place, but it wasn't mine, because I just didn't want them to worry. They know this now, but
wow.
Yeah.
So aren't you in Miami now?
Yeah, I'm actually in Miami now, and it's hurricane season. It's just like awful. I'm hoping that like our power doesn't go out. But we actually might be moving to Seattle soon, which I'm excited about.
That's
random.
I'm
not sure, but yeah.
So how did you get to Miami from LA?
Well, I've been so many places. So I lived in LA, and then I came back for like a summer, and my sister was graduating high school at the time, and I went home, and she went to school for fashion, or wanted to go to school for fashion. So she was like, wait, what if I try to get into FITM, which is obviously in LA, one of the biggest, fashion schools in the world. And they were like, let me move back with you. So she applied, she got in. And so I moved back with my sister, and I lived with my sister in LA for like 6 months. She started to get homesick. I had also my now fiance, who we actually went to high school together. We were like best friends in high school, and never even in a million years would have ever dated each other in high school. But after the fact, we somehow got like reconnected while I was home for that little bit. And then I moved back, and he was living in New York. I was living in LA. And so we started like really dating or like talking a lot more. Then we figured out we liked each other. And I was like, well, I'm in a new relationship. I want to move back home. You're homesick. Like, let's just go back. So we were only there for 6 months, I think, maybe. And then we moved back home. So my boyfriend at the time, now fiance, moved back home to Delaware. And then we moved into a house or apartment in Philly. We lived in Philly for 2 years. And then he got a lateral promotion. He works for Capital One. And they were like, you can either live back in LA, you can live in Boston, or you can live in Miami. And since I work from home and I don't have any kids, I was like, why not? Like, I'll move anywhere. And that's kind of why we're in the same situation now. He has a chance to get another bigger promotion and move to Seattle. So we might do that. We're waiting to kind of hear back and see like interviews and stuff like that.
And you guys, that's the whole thing I'm so passionate about teaching, women is You can create this freedom from yourself. She lived in her fucking car. Her self-worth was in the toilet. Does it happen overnight? No. Anyone who tells you it can, or in 30 days or in 90 days is full of shit. So you should run. But you can create that freedom for yourself where she can work anywhere she wants in the world and pick up and go. And you can have that. But to get there, it takes time. Like I'm sketching down, like when we're talking, right? You remember, she started her Instagram in 2013. It's almost 2020. Like that shit takes time.
Yeah, for sure.
It takes time, consistency, patience. So when did you have any form of like a light bulb moment where you're like, oh shit, I could make money off this?
So it's interesting. I feel like my story is the timeline is so strange, but so going back to when I first started my Instagram and I was just using it for accountability, I had started to kind of like, those people that you find on social media. I mean, I guess we're kind of like commenting back on each other's Instagram stories type of thing, but where you just start to have like a relationship, I guess, on social media and you interact with people. So there was this girl that I had kind of built a relationship with back and forth. And when I was sharing my journey, she had approached me at some point. She also had PCOS, and she was like, have you ever thought about like doing anything with health and fitness? And she was a Beachbody coach, which is actually what I do now. I do kind of like two separate things. But at the time I was doing the workout Insanity, for anybody who knows like Shaun T, the crazy workouts, like, P90X, 21 Day Fix, all that stuff. And so I was just doing Insanity and I had no idea anything about Beachbody. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know any of the workouts. I was just doing that. And she was like, you should look into it. And at the time I was like, sounds like a big time scam. Like, there's no way this is real.
Right, like, wait, I can make money off doing the shit I already like doing. Like,
exactly.
What?
Yeah. And at the time I had like, this was back in 2013 2013. And I had like cousins that were doing like Avon. And I was like, I don't want to go door to door and like give people these catalogs. Like, I just don't want to do that. Why would I want to get into Beachbody? But once I started to see people, like one of the biggest things that kind of drew me to it, because I thought it was a scam right away, was that there was such a community with it and like that aspect of it. And just people I was just explaining this to girls I had a call with earlier, people who knew how to set goals, like, and have a vision. I literally 6 years ago didn't even know what that meant. Like when somebody said they had like a 5-year plan, like I was like, what does that even mean? Not that you have to have it all together, but you can even envision that.
Right. Like you didn't have like a vision board or anything.
No.
You were like, what the fuck's that?
Not even did I not know what that was, but I didn't even know how to make my brain turn on like that, if that makes sense. Like, it's not even about the creativity, but I think it also had to do with my self-worth. It was almost like subconsciously I was like, you don't get to have dreams and goals and visions and things like that. So when I saw people who knew how to do that, I was like, okay, so you're the product of the 5 people you surround yourself with most, because I'd been doing a little bit of personal development. And I was like, well, maybe if I surround myself with these people, it'll rub off on me because I need something. And I was living on the West Coast, literally didn't know anyone. I was living in an apartment with like 2 random guys that I met on set of a YouTube thing. I don't know. Thank God they didn't like murder me, but I ended up living with them for like a year. They were really cool. But I saw that and I was like, okay, let me just give it a try. And within a few months, I was like, wait, people are actually like doing this online and traveling and like getting paid for this. This is like a real thing. And I actually like took the time to like look into it, because I know some people have like this really negative connotation towards like multi-level marketing or network marketing. And believe me, there are plenty of people and companies that don't do it the right way. But Beachbody's been around for 20 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they would have been shut down if it was there wasn't some good behind it. So that's kind of what I stumbled into. And then after doing that for about 6 or 7 months, it kind of made me have the ability to start seeing and believing in myself more. So I was like, I want to do like more. So I don't know if have you ever heard of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, IIN?
No, I haven't.
No. So it's an online course where you get your holistic health certification. So instead of just getting like a regular type of nutritionist certification. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's more of a holistic approach. So you learn like every different diet. You learn about like Ayurveda and like all these fancy like hippy dippy type of things. And it's all online. It's a year course. And I was like, I want to do this because then you can like do one-on-one coaching, because Beachbody is more of like a group coaching thing. And I wanted to be able to give myself options, which was really cool for me. Cause like before I didn't even think I could do anything. And now I was like thinking of multiple ways of earning an income, not just one. Cause when people look into these kinds of things, they think it's like, yeah, it's cut and dry. It's one thing. It's like, no, like even now I have like so many different ideas of things that I want to do. Never would have had them before. So now I do Beachbody coaching is my full-time income. I've been doing it for the past 6 years. And it's 100% the reason I've been able to travel and go anywhere and up and move from Miami to Seattle. I'm not looking forward to that drive because it's going to take us like 5 days. But then I also do like my one-on-one coaching because I loved the idea of people who like, I love my group coaching, but I feel like people are more, I guess, I don't want to say not as committed, but it's less of a commitment because it's just like, I'm going to just try this. Like with the one-on-one coaching, like you're committing to 3 months, 6 months, a year of working together with me, like one-on-one video chats. I'm like helping you dig deep and figure out all of that stuff. I don't like calling it life coaching, but it's kind of similar to that. And so I like just like being able to have, both of those type of things. So I know that was a super long answer to that.
Oh my God. I already knew exactly how you were going to be to interview, and it's so entertaining. Like I knew it'd be entertaining, and you're like me where I like will have to set a timer for myself when I do my solo episodes because we love what we fucking do.
100%.
And you're able to, you're not just talking to me. You're talking to the tens of thousands of people who are listening to this episode, and that gets you excited. I can like see that in you.
Yeah. And I've always been a very passionate person. It's like, it's always weird for me to still say, because I went through that period of time where I wasn't. So it's like, part of me is like, well, you always haven't been that way, but it's always been in me. And I just absolutely love this, everything that I do, not just like with Beachbody, but just being able to see like light bulbs go off for people, whether it's with their nutrition or their fitness, or just like for me, mindset is like my favorite thing ever. Like that's really what I focus on. Cause I don't give a shit if you're eating really healthy and you're working out. If you're not right up here, like you can rub essential oils all over yourself and go to yoga, but like drinking kombucha is not going to change like the deep down stuff that you really have to work on. And so like if I can help people, and like you were saying, like if I can on my social media, and I think that's why I kind of show up as me every single day, because if I do my like weird dancing and share my music and it bothers 10 people, but it inspires one to like completely change their day, I do not care about those other 10 people. Like, not that I don't care about them, but I don't care that I bothered them, because the one person that like got something really good out of it or inspired or whatever, that like is all that really matters to me. So
why do you think you've had such success with building your business, with one of the platforms, utilizing one of the platforms, of Beachbody, where, we all know the stats on starting a business in general, right? Most people do fail because people don't like it when they're not getting instant results. So what do you attribute your success to?
Oh man, I would say more than anything. I mean, I would put it in two categories. One, first and foremost, always would just be personal development. Because I could say I attribute my success to being myself and to just showing up as myself on social media. Because I do think that that's what attracts people to me a lot of the time. Sure, it pushes a lot of people away because they're not comfortable with being themselves. So they don't want to follow me because it's like, why does she get to do that? But that stems from personal development. And I really think that like doing things like, meditations and affirmations, which I didn't do right away. Like I really only been like meditating and saying daily affirmations and visualizations and things like that for the past 3-ish years out of this like 6-year journey. So I think personal development and just consistently doing it every single day, whether it be reading a book. I love podcasts, obviously. But I think that you can't just listen to podcasts. Like there's something different between listening to a podcast and reading a book. I listen to podcasts, probably like 3 or 4 of them a day, but I also always make sure that I'm reading a book because there's a theme to a book and you're kind of really focused on that theme versus the 20-hour podcast kind of it's cut and dry and then it's done. So I feel like I've always made sure that I'm reading a book, I'm listening to podcasts. And the second category would be surrounding myself with positive people. If you're in a group and all of your friends smoke cigarettes, eventually you're probably going to pick up that habit, or it's going to be really hard to not do that. But if you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are like, yes, bitch, you're amazing. Oh my God, I love you. Like, and always lifting you up, like you're going to feel more confident. But if you have friends that like gossip, and we all like have our flaws, it's not like I'm perfect, but if everybody just gossips all the time and they complain and it's just brings you down, that's just going to make you be that way. So I would really say it's surrounding myself with other people that raise me up, and just consistently working on personal development really has been the biggest thing for me. And both of those things has led to me being able to be myself on social media, because I really do think that that's one of the biggest things, but it stems from those.
And something I want to share with you guys that, Alexis and I talked about before we came on, I wanted to let her know, like, so to speak, in real life and not just like in DMs, what she did for me. You guys know, like, I'm real. My brand is about like being real, like being yourself. Like, I'm going to tell you my mistakes, my big wins. Like, I'm going to tell you when someone's full of shit, that, because I can't serve and help you by being any other way. But listen, like I use filters on most of my stuff. Like, I have professional photos, even on my selfies, I've used filters. On my videos, I've used filters. Not because I think I'm like disgusting. I think it's just because, like, first off, yeah, filter does makes my skin look better, I guess. Yeah. And when I see other people's stuff, everyone I see is filtered. So it's like, okay, I should use a filter. And really deep down, I thought, if I don't filter everything, it's going to make people like turned off somehow. I don't mean like sexually, but I mean like turned off, like turned off somehow, I don't know, some weird thing. And then when I came across, you at One Fit Coconut, follow her ass, by the way, it's just amazing how the universe works. And I know you believe in all that stuff. And it's like, I found her by way of her bulldog, Ned. And it's like, then I started watching and I was like, wow, she doesn't feel, use filters. I'm not saying you don't ever use filters, but like, I was most captivated by, your videos. Like, we both are into like EDM. She dances all the time on video and she does not filter it. And it's like, yeah, you have like a very fit body, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Nor is really, very few people, some people are annoyingly perfect, but you don't give a shit. And it made me go, wait a second. Why am I not showing up this way? Because this gives permission to other people to show up this way. So I recently started doing videos called Bathrobe Business Sessions.
Love
where
that.
I'm in my fucking robe. There's no filter. I look exactly how I look right now. And you know what? The response has been amazing. And I really attribute that to you. So I'm going to pay that forward now.
That's really sweet. I really appreciate that. And I think that, like, I think there's a difference between, and I want to clarify that I don't think there's anything wrong with like using filters. I have lots of friends, they put filters, they use like the eyelash filter every time they talk on like Instagram. If you want to do that, like, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think it's important to kind of figure out, like you said, like, why do I have to use it? Or am I using it just for fun? Or have I not worked on like what's kind of deeper down? I'm not confident enough. Do I feel like people are going to judge me? And for me, like, I use like presets on like my feed, just because obviously like we're still trying to like have a pretty looking feed. But it's more of just like the regular presets. But in terms of like on my story, like I will show up, my hair will be a mess. Like I talk with like my face mask on. Cause like for me, it's like, if I share my face with my face mask and people are bothered by that, they're not my people. Like they're not. And I want my Instagram to be filled with my people, so it feels like a home and people can interact with each other and like know each other. And like I don't know, there's just something about, like you were saying, me being real and showing up more that way on my page lets other people feel comfortable. Because I see all the time, maybe not when it first started, but now when you see those Instagrams where people do like a picture of like them posed and then not posed.
Oh yeah.
Or when they show like cellulite or whatever, and like what it looks like photoshopped and not photoshopped. And some people will get mad. They're like, oh, this is boring. We've seen it all. I'm like, no, because I know when I see like a celebrity that I might like, even though they're not perfect and they have roles, they have cellulite, if there's something in our brain that when you see it, you're just like, I'm
I agree
totally normal.
1,000%.
It just makes you feel like, even if you've seen it 1,000 times, like it just makes you feel like, okay, I'm I'm normal. There's nothing wrong with me. So I feel like if I can remind people of that, and it doesn't mean that sometimes when I share that, I'm like, wow, I really wish like I didn't look. My mom will message me sometimes that she's watched every single one of my stories. She's like, did you even brush your hair today? Like, no, mom, I didn't have time. Okay. So I don't know. I just like to, it makes me feel, and it also takes way less time for me to just
Oh my
post
God,
it.
exactly. I mean, that's way too much time. And, to do like, I do a lot of, video stuff. And it's like, I've paid a shit ton of money for like professional production videos and then have the glam squad and the whole
Yeah.
LA thing. And it's like, wait a second, you mean all you people like it better when I'm in my damn robe? I could have saved a lot of money. But you know what? I wasn't ready yet. So
Yeah.
you've also saved me money, girl.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I love the bathrobe thing. That's awesome. Like, I think, because I want everybody to know that, like I said in the beginning, there's nothing wrong with like having those pictures done or like loving the feeling. Like I 90% of the time don't have makeup on and I wear my glasses. But if you see me out, like I got, not like, I mean, normally when I like go to Target, I'm not putting on makeup, but like if I go out to dinner or something, like I love doing makeup. I love taking really cute pictures. Like I'll have 1,000 pictures to get that cute one. Like, but I'm not like that all the time. And I think if you can balance it where you still get those cute pictures, feel yourself, like pose in the way that you want to, but don't feel like you need to do that for every picture, every time, for everything in order to like be confident or to worry if somebody's going to judge you or not. I think as with anything, it's just having that balance is the most important thing.
Yeah, or to have success or, build a brand or whatever. You don't have to do it that way. I agree. So one of the biggest complaints, downsides, frustration that people face, like in any network marketing business, like I have a doTERRA team. That's not my main source of income. I have like 7 streams of income, but I'm a big believer in having a network marketing stream of income.
That's smart.
But what I've noticed where, I business coach people who are at Beachbody, like Isogenics. And you're right. There are I would only get my stamp of approval on 5 companies that I've looked at, my lawyers have looked at, my CPA has looked at, and Beachbody for sure is one of them. So I agree with you, and smart, you did your due diligence. What I notice is you like go to, people want to be like, on your team because they're attracted to you, your vibe, it's exciting. They want that for their own lives. They also want to make money doing it. People are really revved up and exciting until I would say now we're at like month 2 or month 3 and they've made maybe $10. And now they're like, well, this must not be for me. I must not be good at it. How do you manage that? Because that really is a mindset thing, isn't it?
Yeah, everything. I mean, anything in business. I mean, anything in life, relationships, like parenting. I'm not a parent, but I imagine a lot of that stuff is really just all about like the stories that we tell ourselves in our head. But I think that the biggest thing, as with whatever business you want to do, is that people are just not patient. I talk about this all the time, and it like irritates me to know, and I'm gonna get all fired up. We live in a world and society today that has been completely destroyed by the quick and easy app. You swipe and you can date someone. You click a button and you get a car to your house. You have Uber Eats, you have Grubhub, you have all these things that are just quick. You have Netflix. You don't even have to wait for commercials anymore. You just watch your stuff. You can watch whole series in one day. And then people do that and say they don't have time to work their business. But I digress. But everything comes to us so quickly. Like you could do Amazon Prime now, grocery shop, like, and people do that. And I feel like it has really affected like everyone, not even just one generation, but so many people, because they've gotten lazy and they forgot what it is to work hard. And it's almost like, it's not that they're lazy on purpose. It's like, it's just been ingrained in them. Just like most people are like addicted to their phone. That buzz goes off on your phone and you literally have dopamine like go off in your body. So it's like a physical thing. And I think that the biggest thing with like helping people understand that is that they just have to work on their patience. One of my favorite books for that is The Compound Effect. That really helps you understand like this business is so much, or in any business really is about, it's not about, let me do, oh, she just told me to do this thing, or I watched this training, or I read this book, I'm going to apply this and it's going to work now, right? No, you have to apply it and do it for a month and 2 months and 3 months and be here a year from now and then see where you're at. But nobody, like Starbucks, I think Starbucks opened its, I'm reading a book right now that just talked about it, but Starbucks didn't open its 5th store until 13 years into its history. So why do you think, just as a regular person, not even like a company that has lots of people behind it, you're just going to like work your business for 3 months or even 6 months and then all of a sudden see all the success? Now, of course, I'm sure that you've seen people who have joined any kind of company where they join and they are that quick success. One, they're probably doing an ungodly amount of work that you don't see. Two, they probably built that like, know, and trust factor on their social media. So when they started growing their business, they didn't have to start growing that trust with their following. They already had that. So I think it's just, the biggest thing is just that patience with the whole process. And obviously patience isn't necessarily easy to teach, but it's just reminding them of that, that it doesn't mean it's not for you. And the other thing is that most people don't have any idea the amount of work that it takes. Not do you have to like work 17 hours a day, but they say they don't have time and they're watching 6 hours of Netflix, or they're doing this or doing that. It's being smart with your time, but also being patient with the whole process.
Right. I mean, I shared in my stories, this is why I keep it real with you guys. It's not always sexy and like life in Bali as an entrepreneur. Yeah. Like I worked, seriously, no joke, yesterday, I was sitting in this very spot I'm sitting now for 7.5 hours straight working. I like forgot to shower. I forgot to eat. Yeah. Now, was and part of it, I was miserable, truthfully, because someone on my team dropped the ball in a bad way. So there was lots of cursing going on here, but I had to get over myself because the shit had to get done. Yeah. And that's what it looks like sometimes. I love that we're having this discussion. This is probably something that fires me up equally as much, is because you're right. I think it's because people keep seeing this marketing online of, how to make 10,000 a month in 30 days, how to manifest $1,000 in a week, how to, and it's like, okay, not to say that can't happen. But realistically, if you want to have a business that lasts, it takes time. But then you have the people saying to you, but Alexis, I need the money now, or I'm going to have to go get another job. What do you say to those people?
So it's actually funny because I just watched a video from Amanda Francis on her YouTube. It's like an 8-minute video. And it's about the difference between frantic manifestation and relaxed receptivity. Because while I don't think that you can just sit there and just be like, oh, money's going to come to you, you have to put in the hard work. I think a lot of people focus so much on like, I need to manifest this right now. I need this money right now. I need this to work right now, like you said, or I have to, get a second job or whatever. But I think if they can focus on or remind themselves that manifestation doesn't have a timeline. The things that you want are going to happen when they should. You can't say, okay, I want to manifest this, but I need to manifest it by tomorrow. Like you have to understand that because I think, I forget who it was, but a book I was reading or something, she was talking about how she wanted to take this vacation with her kids. And so she was doing visualization. She was like, I'm going to envision myself in a bikini and what the beach feels like and all this stuff. And that summer that she wanted to go, it didn't happen, but it happened the next summer. So I think if people can stop, again, putting a timeline on what they need, like, again, you can put in the work, but sometimes things are not supposed to happen in the way that you want them to. One of my favorite quotes from the book, The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein. She says, obstacles are just detours in the right direction. And when things don't go in the way or the timeline that I want them to, I always remind myself of that. Like, this is an obstacle, but it's in the right direction. And you always want something right now, but what if you got that thing and it led you to a dead end? What if you waited, you were more patient, and then you got what you wanted? It just happened a little bit later on. And I think the other piece of it is the social media world, like I was saying, with like apps and stuff, but it's also the comparison. Yeah. And people, if we lived back in the day when there wasn't as much social media and you couldn't see what people were doing right away, you wouldn't be able to compare yourself and say, because people only have a timeline because they're comparing themselves to other things. Because you can't have a timeline if you don't compare it to anybody else, because you don't know what that is. So I think if you can, again, it's hard to do, but you have to not worry about comparing yourself to somebody else's journey with this, because I know plenty of girls that have started, because people are always like, you have to get in early to be successful. I know a girl that's been doing this for a year and a half and is already like a far ahead of me. And I'm very successful with this, but I could let that make me feel like I'm not where I want to be. But I feel like I've been doing this for 6 years. I've already achieved a lot, but there's other goals that I want to achieve. And maybe it didn't happen last year, or maybe it even won't happen this year, but it'll happen when it's supposed to. So I feel like you just have to be okay with like knowing the time is going to pass anyway, and saying, okay, maybe you do have to get a second job, and you have to figure out how to manage both of these things. And maybe it'll take a bit to get adjusted, but once you do, maybe you'll be able to figure it out after then. But you don't really know how perfectly it's going to work out. So it's really hard to figure out, okay, this is what I need to do right now. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you must really not want it truly badly enough if you're already ready to give up 6 months in, a year and a half in. Listen, I've been an entrepreneur 11 years. So to compare yourself to me is self-abuse. To compare yourself to Alexis, 6 years in doing this, that's self-abuse. That's not realistic. Everyone comes in with different talents. Obviously, Alexis is naturally an excellent communicator. Some people take more time and need to learn that. Some people are amazing with numbers. Some people are amazing with sales. We all have different gifts. Would you mind, and you don't have to like give the exact number, but would you mind taking people to like kind of how it looked those 6 years, like year one? I mean, were you already crushing it at year one? Like, to give people an idea of how the shit really looks behind the scenes?
Yeah. So no, I was not crushing it. And I am not a numbers person. I'm not a salesperson. I've never even had like a regular retail job, anything like that. And I always, my fiance yells at me. I always say, I don't think I'm very smart, but I think I'm very creative. So if I can do this, and I can be the hot mess that I was when I first joined and first just started in this kind of industry, or in any business for that matter, like anybody can do this. And you hear that all the time, but I always say like, why not you? Why can't you? Like so many people do. But the first year, I think I made, I started in March of 2013. And in the first few months, like, I think I made like $35, I think. But once I went to like my first live event and I really started to work on personal development, I was like, okay, I can sit here and make up the excuses about why I don't have time for this, or why I can't do this, or why I can't do that. Or I can say, okay, instead of finding an excuse, I'm going to find a solution. And so when I started to do that, that's when I started to take it more seriously. I started to work on, my confidence, which showed up on social media. And then my business really started to go, and I started to attract other people, because you can't expect in any business you're in, whether it's network marketing or wherever, you can expect to attract people to you to like, whether it's clients or people to work with you, if you're not like at that certain level. And so once I started to do that, that's when my business really started to go. So I would think I made like maybe $5,000 in that first year. So I had like, it was only like 7 months, but that's how much I made. And then I went from that to 60,000 the next year.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then,
that's a big jump.
Yeah. And then I jumped to 6 figures, and I've been at 6 figures ever since. And, it was a huge jump because I went all in. And I think most people are 1 foot in, 1 foot out of whatever they're doing, because it literally does not matter whether you're
or
doing
there's like,
marketing.
There's, what's the term I'm thinking of? It starts with a C. There's conditions, it's like, they're not really all in because, well, I'll give this 3 more months and see if it works. Or if I don't start, matching my current, pay or my current salary or whatever within this year, that I'm out. That's not all fucking in, right?
Yeah. And they're giving themselves, like I was saying earlier, they're giving themselves a timeline. Now, I don't mean like keep doing it and work yourself into the ground for 45 years. And then if it doesn't work,
right.
You obviously have to have like, but I think most people put a timeline on themselves, but they're really not putting in the amount of work that they can. And I don't want to say that and think that that I had to work like 48 hours and never even sleep, breathe, or eat. But I did put in a lot of work because I'm a big quote person. One of my favorite quotes from Art Jonak is, and you can, again, apply this to network marketing, you can apply it to anything. Most people think 4 years is a long time to build a business, but are okay with staying broke at a job for 40 years, which blows my mind. Like, it's nothing against anybody who has a regular job, but like, you're okay with maybe getting a 1% pay increase every year with 2 weeks paid vacation, and you don't get to like do all these things, but you won't make sacrifices to see less of your kids and do this for a few years so you can later on do whatever you want. If I want to take off a day and just like, if I wanted to leave tomorrow and go see my mom back in Delaware, like I could, but I only got there because I was willing to make a shit ton of sacrifices and miss out on some things for the first few years of my business. And I think a lot of times people will put in the work, but they won't put in that like real ass work. Like the cause the definition of entrepreneurship is jumping off a cliff and building a net on the way down. And most people are building the net and they have not jumped off that cliff yet. They haven't. And they think they have, but they have not.
And I think it's so important. You guys can feel who are listening right now, especially those of you who are like hiding at your desk with like one AirPod in and you're like wanting to leave your job. That's like something I would do. That's why I always say that. But I know that you guys listening, like drop in really quick right now, even just take one deep breath. And I know you guys know what Alexis and I are talking about. Like you really aren't all in. You're ready to jump, but you just want to be able to jump with someone. And it makes it a lot less scary. I jumped alone and it was a shit show. Okay. Yeah. Like I don't recommend it. You can do it that way. I don't recommend it, but no, like you have two people right here, like go check out Alexis at One Fit Coconut. Okay. Come to me. I spend 2 hours every day in my DMs. That's my way of giving back to you guys, of being there, being someone who I wish I had to go all in. You're not alone. There are real people who keep it real, who get it, who will hold your hand, but we're not going to hold your hand if you're not going to jump.
Yeah.
Because we've already jumped. Like we're not going to be held back. You're coming for the ride. It's scary. It's messy. It's ugly. I've had ugly cries. I've been on my knees before.
Yeah.
The difference is I might say I'm going to quit, like venting to like a friend, but but I'm just venting. Like I'm never going to fucking quit. Like I'm a survivor. Like I'm never going to quit. But sometimes you just like need to get it out. That's what it looks like sometimes. Like it sometimes is 7.5 hours sitting at a desk on a beautiful Sunday in LA when I have a view of my pool in the backyard. Oh, well, I went for a night swim instead. And you know what? It's like, this is why I can afford this life. And it's it's okay, right?
Yeah, and like you were saying, like it was a shit show. Like whether you do it alone or however you do it, the shit show is what helps make you stronger. And it's like sounds so cheesy because it's like the struggle makes you stronger, but it's what it is. And people avoid failure like the plague. And I am literally only here because I have failed my way to where I am. I have been a shitty leader. I have shown up shittily. If that's even a word.
It is now.
It is now on social media. Like I have not been the best, like significant other to my fiance. I've not been the best to like my family at times, but I've learned from that. And if you keep avoiding failure, whether it's for a business purposes, or you're just trying to get better in like your marriage, you won't figure out what's wrong until you fail. You don't learn from doing really well. Like you ride a bike and you fall and you figure out what not to do. But if you started to ride a bike and you were good right away, like that, I don't think that would really help you learn anything. So you really have to fail a million times and be okay with failure. And I think that's one of the biggest things, besides like what I was saying about patience earlier, now that I think about it, is being okay with failure and knowing that you're not going to die. Like I struggle with anxiety. And one of the things that I try to remind myself of, and again, it takes like personal development. And I know a lot of people like take medication for anxiety and whatnot, but with like the bigger things, the smaller things, whatever you want to look at, if you can think about, maybe you want to be on a podcast and there's somebody that you listen to and you want to reach out to them because you think it's going to help your social media or something like that, but you're afraid to send them that message. But what happens if you send them that message and they say no? what's going to happen? Are you going to spontaneously combust?
No.
You're going to be fine. And I think people think that they're going to spontaneously combust. And like, if you do that, you're like, okay, that didn't work. What could I change? What could I do better? And I think if you can be okay with failure, you'll really be successful. But that takes personal development and support of other people. Because if you're going down that road completely alone and you don't have anybody, I mean, you can do it, but it makes it a lot easier when you're surrounded by people that have a similar mindset. Like my family, like when I first started this whole thing, they were like, when are you going to get a real job? Like, this isn't like you went to school to be a teacher and you're not, I have not once used my degree at all. I mean, I teach now, I guess. But I have never used my degree, and I could have let what they say, like, bother me, but I instead, I still love them, but I surrounded myself with people who didn't have that mindset. And I think if you can do that, that will be really helpful.
If you guys are loving this injection of truth, motivation, and real talk, take a screenshot right now of this episode, share it, tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany, tag at OneFitCoconut. If you're driving, if you're multitasking, you can just tag me, because I know you have mine memorized, at ProjectME with Tiffany, and I'll make sure to share in my stories and tag at OneFitCoconut. But let us know that you're loving this. Share this episode. Like, if you're in network marketing, share this fucking episode with your team. Like, let someone else who's successful, speak for you. So it's free for, I mean, hello, share this with your team, share this. I'm going to share this with, my employees at my other company and at ProjectME, and have them listen to this. This is something really important, especially the patience and the failure aspect. Plus, I mean, it is entertaining, aren't we? I think we kind of are, right?
I think we are. If only we had our bulldogs here and they could see them, then it'd be even more entertaining. Mine is just snoring in the background right now.
Molly is downstairs. I usually quarantine her during podcasts because she's bigger than Ned. Like, she's a mammoth. And so her snoring is insane, and her farts will kill me. It would be bad. Really?
Yeah, he used to be, but we have him on a raw diet now, so he's super bougie. But his snoring is only occasionally bad. But he's a smaller bulldog.
Yeah,
he's super cute, but he's got a smaller head, and I don't know if maybe that helps his breathing, because he doesn't got the massive chunk.
No,
face.
Molly has a giant chunk face. She's just she's giant. So when you're cuddling him, I'm like, oh my God, I need another bulldog. I need a small one that I can hold, because there's no holding Molly. She's having a pig, basically.
Yeah. When I'm 85 years old and I'm completely retired from everything, I'm gonna be that old lady that has 100 bulldogs in her house. 100%.
I'm with you. See, you guys, and because this is such a good lesson, for us to end with, it's because Alexis did that work on herself, and she's comfortable with sharing things about herself and her personal life. That's how I found her, because she didn't just come on and just talk about, her workouts and her business. It's I mean, that wouldn't have really got me. She sharing, funny stuff with her dogs, her dance moves, and she goes to festivals, that kind of stuff. And it's that's how I found her, and look what happened. And now she's on the show, and now you're hearing it. And now you guys are going to share it, and you're going to tag us and post it on social media, and you're going to not quit and realize I'm at 11 years in, you're at 6 years in, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't count all the shit that she did before that. And all my corporate experience I did before the 11 years. It's patience, it's time, it's experimenting. At least once a week I fail at something, whether it's a social media post that I put out.
I deleted one the other day. So I rarely do that, but it was I'm going to get rid of this one.
Yeah. I mean, I'll throw something out, just seeing okay, is this something that would help you guys? I call it experimenting, right?
Yeah.
I like saying that because it is an experiment. That doesn't mean it's going to work.
Yeah.
And at least once in a week, something doesn't work. But guess what? Once a week, also something does work.
Yeah. And you probably learn a lot more from the things that don't work versus the things that do. I mean, not that you don't learn from the things that go well, but I feel like I learned so much more from the things that I don't do well. But something else I wanted to add to, which I kind of touched on, but is the biggest thing, whatever you're going after, whatever business you want to do. I think if you can just be okay with, obviously we talk about patience, we talk about failure, but being vulnerable and not being scared to share the things that a lot of people don't want to share. When they say that like one in however many women like have miscarriages, and a lot of women are afraid to share that, or people who've struggled with like suicidal thoughts or eating disorders, and people are afraid to share those things. And I know it's not easy to just like share everything on social media, and you not that you have to tell every single person every bit of your history, but when you are open and you share those things, it one helps people trust you. Because if you show up with every filter and you don't share the hard stuff and you aren't vulnerable, people are going to kind of be like, okay, like when you see these people who post on social media and their house is always clean and nothing ever looks like it's a mess and they always have makeup on, you're like, there is absolutely no way you were always like this. So I feel like it helps build trust, but it also helps other people feel like, again, they can share that too, and it will help heal them. I've had plenty of people reach out to me when I've shared about either being in an emotionally abusive relationship, and they've told me that me sharing my story has helped them leave an emotionally abusive relationship, or finally get help with an eating disorder. Like if I kept that to myself, that doesn't do anything for anybody. Now, if you're just kind of a social media like person and you just like look at people's stuff, if you're not doing it for business, that's one thing. But I really think if you're doing it for business, like it just helps. And no matter what business you're in, because I think that when you see companies that like share more of a backstory, or you learn more about like their CEO or different things like that, I feel like I connect with the company as a whole even more. So no matter where you are in that, if you can just have that real, raw, genuine vulnerability, I think it will do so much for you and for other people.
Oh, I love that. And, she's not just, just talking it. She walks it. So go over to One Fit Coconut, take a screenshot, tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany, tag Alexis, share the show, share it with your team, share it with, friends of yours that, could use an extra boost, who, have recently said they're not motivated, nothing's working in their business. Like, hear it from two people who've not given up, who've not quit, who have the success. Like, you guys have seen those like visuals where like someone's like mining for like a diamond.
Yes,
and
like, I love that.
And it's like they're one freaking chip away from getting the diamond, yet they give up. Like, that is really true.
100%. I love that you said that, because I use that all the time. Like that exact little graphic is so much, and that it is where so many people are, because it's like the analogy of pushing a boulder up a hill, and so much of the beginning of your business is pushing that boulder up a hill, and you just have to get to that summit, because once you do and you gain momentum, because I think business is very much about momentum, especially in terms of network marketing. Once you can get that to that summit and the ball starts to roll down the hill, then it starts to gain momentum. It doesn't mean that everything's easier, but it kind of does. You just have new problems, new level, new devil. So, but it will start to gain momentum, but you have to get to the point where it does gain momentum. It just takes a little bit. So.
And you've got two people you can DM. I know.
DM me totally.
She does check them. Otherwise, I don't say that when there's guests that I'm like, yeah, you're really not that great about it. I don't say it, but no, she does check them. You guys know that I do. You're not in it alone. Take advantage. I mean, you have people offering, to help guide you. So take advantage of it. I probably spend
too much time in my DMs, but I just can never see a message and completely ignore it. That feels weird to me.
Me too. Know. It's like that. And when people, well, first off, that's part of why you're successful, right? Yeah. And also comments. It's like someone's commenting on a post, like, I am going to write back. Like, that's like going to a party and someone being like, oh my God, like, I love, like, your eyeshadow looks amazing on you. And me turning my head and walking away. It's very fucking rude. Don't do it.
Yeah. Oh, there was an analogy that somebody used at a conference I was at, where they were talking about growing your social media. And they were saying, everybody's worried about, how do I get more followers? How do I get more likes? How do I get more engagement? But people are so worried about getting new people, they're forgetting about like serving the people that are already at their party. So like, imagine you have a house party and you have a bunch of people that just walked in the door and you're serving them at your party, but then you leave and you go out in the neighborhood and you start banging pots and pans trying to get more people to come to your party. Nobody's going to come to the party, and you're not serving anybody at the party. So if you can focus on just serving your social media following where it's at, the people will come. But you can't forget about like commenting, interacting with people. And not that you have to maybe comment back on every single, in comments on your page, yes, you should do that. But like DMs, like if you get like a bajillion of them and you can only, like ones occasionally, like if you have somebody who messages you like on every single story, that might be a little hard. But as long as you can like just show people that you care as much as you can, it will really help so much. And you never know who you can connect with. So
yeah, look, this is how we got connected, you guys.
Yeah.
So you need take this as an example. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, share this episode. That also keeps this show going and growing. This is not free for me to put on. I have a producer, I have a production manager, and of course my time. So this is not free. So give back by sharing the show. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Alexis. This was so fun. I could talk to you for like 10 hours.
Same. If you locked me in a room, like I would just talk forever. So I really appreciate you having me on.
All right. Have a great day. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.